You feel very low energy.
Yeah. I want to take a nap.
Oh. Are you sad?
Yeah, well,
Okay.
It's like an emotional.
Yeah. That was a very emotional payoff to the point where I am confused about how Glenn Weldon preferred the end of this season. Because it's just as emotional and like sappy and saccharine, all those things that he doesn't like.
I'm not thinking about that. I'm not in a place where I'm going to argue critics' takes on it or whatever.
I didn't even read the thing. I just saw he like preferred this ending, and I'm a little bit surprised.
What was this episode called?
The Beast in the Jungle. The titles of these episodes are not as good to me as
it just was. It was heavy.
Yeah.
Like I honestly think I did love this, and I'm in this weird position where I'm kind of desperate to watch it again because I want to see how it watches knowing, like in context. But also, I just can't imagine.
Not right now.
Like going back to it.
Not right this minute.
Everybody was talking about how depressing it is, and while that's an element of it, it was actually just beautiful.
It's lovely. I definitely agree with you. You can read it as only depressing, but like it's nice. It's really nice.
I feel weird saying that this has a happy ending because, I mean, well, it depends. There's the story that it told is so interesting. I found myself kind of fighting it the whole way around because I was wanting it to be sticking to conventions.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. I don't want that.
Yeah.
But I was sort of like at war with the show. And for instance, even the flashback episode of the 1600s, I was like, I kind of wish that Perdita had like, it had been telegraphed that we knew the journey. And there was something fascinating about this where I think Hill House had a very epic, almost like Shakespearean vibe.
Yeah.
It felt very regal. This family that was like drowning in this misery. Well, that was, I should say, the drowning metaphor for.
Well, this is also way more of like a Bronte sisters situation where it's like, sure, there are ghosts, but that's not the point. The point is the love story.
Well, and also it just like there was something about these people just seeing the parts of these people's lives and seeing them together, and they didn't have to represent all things. Like for instance, in people pointed out that Hill House, there was a very tidy metaphor that could be read into it, like the stages of grief or whatnot, or characters represented things. And with this, there was something so human about this.
That's a good way to put it.
Because I mentioned where I was like, Hannah.
Poor Hannah.
What's her name?
Oh,
Tina.
I think it's Tania Miller.
She was stunning.
So good.
That her performance and the beginning, opening this episode in that loop again. I teared up. I didn't actually cry. I'm a little bit surprised.
I didn't cry, but I teared up a buttload in this episode, and like more than once.
I welled when he was like begging her to go save them.
Yeah.
And she just like, again, I'm going to say it again, but it was so human. It felt so real. And to finish my thought, I mentioned that like, I was like, they had a very unique chemistry. And I said, it wasn't exactly like a sexual chemistry because that's what Peter and Rebecca had.
Right.
But there was just something very lovely.
Well, comforting, I think we said in Hannah's episode, they have a very like mom and dad are here kind of a vibe to them in a way that it's like everything's going to be okay if they're here.
Which is suiting of like the cook and the housekeeper, you know, and it's like, I didn't get an age on a lot of the people.
She felt older than him, but not by like not like by a weird margin.
She wasn't an ingenue.
Yeah.
Which, you know, Danny had that cornered, but it like.
I think that she's got that. Victoria Pedretti's got that on lockdown. For probably like 10 more years, she could squeeze that out.
Even Danny and Jamie's relationship, I think it was pretty light in the beginning. And they did a fair amount of heavy lifting in this.
They did. I was going to say, we were like 10, 15 minutes into this episode, and I was like, we are done with plot. What the fuck is happening here? And then it was like, I guess I didn't realize that that's what we were going to. And that's the type of thing where it's like, this feels like a different show from where it started. Like it ended in a way different place. I like it, but it is, I think...
It stops being scary after, like, episode 3.
Yeah, and then you're just sort of like, well, here she comes again, walking again. But it was very... I loved how much time that then we got to spend with them, so that Danny and Jamie, so that we, like, understand, like, how they just decided to be like, well, let's take it one day at a time and go traveling, and we'll outlast this.
And there's not a metaphor in this. I mean, because there's the themes of dementia.
Yeah.
You know, it's or mental illness.
Mental illness, yeah.
Or physical illness, any kind of thing. And I say this a lot in our coverage, but and I think it's something that's come more so from being older, from being an adult.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm amazed at how much I love non-committal things. Like I'm amazing at how much I love insinuations or how much I love like inferences and stuff. And I noticed watching, the example I use is Sharp Objects, but there's like a couple scenes in Sharp Objects where they just sort of, they don't even imply, but they suggest that the story suggests something could be true. Mm-hmm. And you're like, oh God, I don't want that. And they never confirms or denies.
Sure.
And so I've like noticed from that moment on that I actually really enjoy that but it has to be an extremely well-crafted story.
I was going to say that's like a very like Gillian Flynn, Mike Flanagan type of thing. Like they're very good at that kind of like, well, maybe it's this and wouldn't that be horrifying if it were, but I'm not going to tell you if it is. And it's like, ugh. And
so to get to my point, I kind of love that you can watch this whole thing and be like, so what's the truth? Mm-hmm. Like, so what, I mean, Carla Gugino literally, which she's so good. I love when the people at the end, because we, you know, and it's also such a relief going back to the storytelling, like the parlor.
Yeah.
And the guy was like, so is it true? And she just goes, what part?
Yeah.
Like, it implies that, spoiler alert.
Yeah, hard spoiler alert.
It implies that she is Jamie.
Yeah.
Pretty heavily, but even still, it's still ambiguous.
Well, they literally turn into who they are at the end while she's glancing around.
Well, those weren't those people, I don't think.
That's how they're credited.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So they just didn't recognize Jamie? Or they just didn't talk about it?
Owen did.
Oh.
And Henry did.
I like my version better.
The children don't remember.
No, I understand that. So that was Flora.
Yes, that was Flora.
The bride was Flora.
And then the boy standing next on the other side of the table from Owen, that's Miles.
So they just didn't, because he was like way shorter. The Owen actor. The like older Owen. Was like,
I mean,
I think
you're like older Indian man. It's like you're not.
No, I like enough. Well, okay, I like my interpretation better. That I think you can read it that way.
Yeah.
But it's like, but also again, like what part of it is real? Like what if any of it? And I mean, I believe something's real.
Well, it's like entirely possible that like they had this summer together and she fell in love with Danny and Danny had mental problems and went back to the manor and killed herself. Mm-hmm. Like that's entirely possible. But I mean, like, I don't necessarily think, like, for me, the effectiveness isn't on the dun dun, or not dun dun dun. That sounds like nefarious, but on the like twist. Okay, that's my point. As I'm saying, you don't need the twist. No, you don't.
Oh, that's this character in order for it to work.
No. Of course, yeah.
I think that there's a way where
that's the thing.
That's
like,
just her seeing these people from her past in these people.
Well.
I like that better for me.
I mean, I don't read it that way because I don't read it that way because of how it was very specifically presented, where they like turned back into them, and especially the way that Owen character and the Henry character both like acknowledged her specifically, and only the children didn't remember her. Only like Flora
maybe
and Miles.
That's the thing that when I watch it again.
Yeah. I mean, I just really, really, the romance of it, it was just so nice. It was just so nice and cute. The two of them, Jamie and Danny, and like they just like opened a flower shop in this little town, and it's just they had got a civil union, and it was
but that's also the kind of stuff that I'm like, was any of that real?
Yes. Don't be mean.
I'm not being mean.
It's like Little Women. It all happened.
I don't think that it did.
It happened. can't take this away from me.
There was also a moment, which mercifully it does not do, but I thought that when Jamie went back to Bly Manor at the end and like waded out into the lake, I thought she was going to drown, and I thought it was going to be that self-fulfilling prophecy that it was like Dany's attempt to save her ends up being
I'm glad they didn't do that.
They could have. It would have been that's an effective end to another story.
So I thought that was where they were going to pull the horror back in to like clinch the ending, but they just pivoted the other way, and I love it. Love it.
That they resisted that.
Well, and especially the explanation where it was like because the lady in the lake was now Dany, and she would never. And I just like, oh, it's so good. It's so good.
It is so good. And that's the other thing that I want to like put a button on with this series, with this anthology series, and people watching it on Netflix, because people are just going to be looking for something. It's spooky season. Let's just scare me.
Yeah.
These are based on literature.
Yeah.
Like
is this one definitely Bly Manor is like a...
Yeah, it's the work of it's the Turn of the Screw, and then whoever the author of that, they pulled from his entire catalog.
Oh, okay.
So it's sort of like a mashup of his work.
Gotcha. And
I think that's the MO of this show, is they're going to pick a literary figure,
spooky literary,
and do like an homage to their work.
I would, since I brought up the Brontes already, I'm just going to throw it out there and say, Mike Flanagan, if you're listening, I would love a Wuthering Heights.
But I mean, I think it would be an homage.
Sure,
like it would have elements of all their work in it.
I like your gothic romance.
Yeah.
I would like some more.
I would do scary again.
Well, sure, but...
And also outright fantasy. I keep saying that. I think fantasy is an underutilized element of...
I agree.
Of storytelling and horror, but...
I'm going to say my least favorite part of this episode was the Sheryl Crow needle drop there at the end.
I thought it was nice.
I love that song, and it had some lyrics that wove into the story, but it was jarring to me.
It helped ground me.
Okay.
It pulled me out.
Okay.
Because I was
having like
I was in it.
Yeah.
Like I was still.
Yeah.
When I get still, do you know what I mean?
No,
like when I'm not fidgety.
The thing for me about that song specifically is it's in a really pivotal moment of
I'd never heard it before.
Oh, it's one of my favorite Sheryl Crow songs. It's in a really pivotal moment of the original Roswell series. So it mostly, I just was like, and I couldn't really take it seriously, but it's a lovely song. But it just, that's all I could think of while it was happening. But
yeah, this made me tear up a few times. Weirdly, adult Flora made me.
Oh, yeah.
I loved the bond. I loved the connection. Yeah. And I think that's actually why I do like it open-ended, is because it's like I like the notion that you can have a connection like that with someone that you don't know.
Yeah.
And I don't need the explanation that I know her magically. Sure, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so...
Where it's like Flora does know her, but she doesn't remember that she knows her. It just is like this feeling. And I did like that too. And the moment where she was like, what's going to happen if he dies first? And I just was like, what a morbid night before your wedding thing.
So many lesser storytellers would be like, that scene's not necessary.
No, but it totally is. It totally is.
And it's those human moments that made it.
Yeah, and especially because Jamie knows what it's like to be the one who doesn't die first. And it's like very, it was very good. I really liked it. I still can't say I liked it better than Hill House because they're such different things. But I think this one resonates with me emotionally a little bit more.
I'm thrilled that this is the follow-up.
Yes, me too.
And I hope that we get a healthy 5 seasons out of.
From somewhere. It doesn't have to be Netflix. From somewhere.
From your lips to God's ears.
I would absolutely love more seasons of this. And it seems like, because we really liked Dr. Sleep, but I have not watched any other Mike Flanagan things like Gerald's Game, or what's the other one? There's another one. Oculus. Yeah.
I don't think I can watch Oculus.
Yeah, you don't like
the Apple. It's the Apple.
Into the light bulb.
Yeah.
So I've not watched any more of those, but it seems to me that he is better at long form, because I loved Dr. Sleep, but it was also 2.5 hours long. And like I think this to
me though, it's like this only worked for me in completion.
Sure. It was a little touch and go a couple of times.
In the middle, I was a little bit like, okay.
Yeah.
but like only upon completion am I like, oh, I loved this.
Yeah. No, it was very good. And the emotional wrap up of it was like, because it's in like a nice little bow, but it's not finished. Like there's still more that you could.
Well, and it's like there was a part of me that I'm like, what are we going to do here? Are we going to see like some angelic Dany walk through the door, blah, blah, blah. And
it was just her hand on her shoulder. Oh my God.
But also the notion that she was already in the room.
I know. And she didn't
come in.
But she like also did all of these things to try to get her there. And she's just already probably always there. It was just lovely. I loved it so much. Plus, an alive lesbian at the end of a TV show. So great.
Yeah, the lesbianness of it didn't, like, the queer quality didn't feel like a stunt.
No.
It didn't feel,
no.
You know.
But I think it was because of, like,
in a way that Ryan Murphy is very stunty with its.
Very stunty. But it didn't feel like it, and I think it was because of the Dany backstory episode where we, like, see it coming already, and we're like, oh, that's part of why she doesn't want to marry this boy. And it's like, yeah, it's all good. I liked it. I liked it a lot. We definitely recommend it.
And people, they lived. I was very surprised that.
Yeah. Everybody who hadn't already died lived, except for Dany.
Yeah.
But that was more
I'm happy for the kids. That was heartbreaking, though. Her giving up her life for them and them not even remembering her.
Yeah.
But such as.
Yeah. Well, they were, what, 10 and 8?
Yeah.
That's pretty young.
And
I remember very little from when I was 10 and 8.
Yeah, but you would think something dramatic, although it goes both ways.
Yeah.
You would either remember it and it would consume you, or you would completely forget it.
Yep.
And I also loved, because you called it out, but I kept complaining about how the house was, like, not enough light in it. And literally the next morning, they, like, opened the house. Yeah. There was light in it, and you were like, there you go.
It's almost like something's been
suffocating
all the light out of this house.
So, and I actually feel like there were things unanswered, because I still don't understand the dollhouse, unless I guess that little ghost boy.
I think it's just the little ghost boy, but because for a minute in the previous episode, I thought that Kate Siegel was in the dollhouse, and I was like, she can't be, because the dollhouse was made so much later. But then that's why she couldn't get out of her room, and then I realized it was the trunk that she was in, and I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah. But there were still windows and a door, and so that's what I was like, maybe she's like glued into this dollhouse somehow, but it didn't exist 400 years ago.
So.
Yeah. Very good. All right, I guess I'll do a little outro since this is the last one. So if you have enjoyed any of our Bly Manor coverage, hit the subscribe button over here. And if you're only listening, go to YouTube and subscribe to our page on YouTube. You can follow us on Twitter @SoI'mWatching, Instagram @SoI'mWatchingTheShow. Our website is soI'mWatching.com, and it links out to everything. And this was amazing. Yay! More Haunting of Whatever from Mike Flanagan.